Welcome to Grace. Never heard of her. I'm Gina.
And I'm Maddie. We're two moms, two friends, two overstimulated women navigating motherhood, new identities, and careers, all while challenging society's expectations and redefining what it means to do it all.
Because Grace, well, never heard of her, but word is she's worth getting to know.
I am very excited about today's conversation. As most of you are probably aware, April is Autism Awareness or Autism Acceptance Month, however you choose to celebrate or recognize this very important month. Some things that I was learning along the way as we were researching the topic: 1 in 36 children in the U.S. Are on the spectrum. Autism acceptance is all about celebrating differences throughout April and beyond. And it's recognizing that the diagnosis is much more than a diagnosis. It's all about celebrating folks' identity, the community, their lived experiences that encompass both challenges and triumphs. The diagnosis can occur at any age. Most of the early detection happens by age 2, but an interesting thing that I also learned is adult diagnosis rates have increased over 450% from 2011 to 2022, particularly among folks aged 26 to 34.
This is actually a really personal topic for me because autism affects two of my nephews. And so today we're bringing on their mom to talk to us about her experience and what she's learned about autism throughout all of this. Today's conversation, we're going to focus on Des. Des is the younger of the two. They are both on opposite ends of the spectrum, but Des is 3 years old and he is level 2 nonverbal. So today's conversation is going to be primarily about what that experience with Des has been like. So with that, we are thrilled to welcome the mom of my nephews, my sister-in-law, Ariel Simonelli, to the pod.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Thanks for coming.
Hi.
We're so happy to have
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Thank you for asking me. Um, I did want to say, just kind of off the top, in no way am I an expert. In no way am I trying to speak for the whole autistic community. I am just a mom learning as I go. Like, I would just breathe fire for my kids, and I can only speak to my experience and still hold space for everybody else. So
Amazing.
that's all
T-
I wanted, like, just make sure that that's known. Like, I know there's a lot of discourse, and I just want to make sure that that's clear that this is just my experience so far.
yeah, I can imagine this is a very sensitive topic.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that we get it right without stepping on toes, but also, just advocating for myself and my kids. And if I connect with somebody, then I do. And if I miss the mark, then the internet's gonna come after me anyway. So I'm just gonna put it out there.
Just
you know?
live your truth. That's all you can
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
This is your journey.
Seriously, like, I'm only a year in so far. Um, but I've definitely learned a lot, a lot.
And we're going to talk about all of that.
Ariel, maybe you can take us back. I know you are a mom of 3 boys. I know that
Mhm.
Des was your second. If you could
Yes.
just kind of think back to what your first pregnancy was like and
Yeah,
how you were feeling in that pregnancy versus kind of how you prepared yourself for your
yeah.
second pregnancy as well.
So Emmett and Des are 8 years apart. So I had Emmett from a previous relationship. I was 22 years old. I knew nothing. So, young mom, relatively normal pregnancy. I mean, I was sick a lot, lost weight, but nothing out of the ordinary. But then I I did have him early. I had him at 37 weeks, which in the scheme of things isn't that early, but he meconium aspirated. Anyone who doesn't know, meconium is the first bowel movement, um, which is usually after birth. He did it in utero, breathed it in, and had to stay in the NICU for 3 weeks. Flash forward to Des, it was kind of a high risk pregnancy. I had some medical things that we won't really get into. Let's just say I was 30 days out from having a hysterectomy. In those days, I got pregnant and the plans changed for the better. We wanted him, we were trying for him. At 33 weeks, I started having some pains, and I sent a message through the portal to my doctor about having pains. It was just really low pressure and just kind of sharp shooting pains, and she kind of like brushed it off as like, "Oh, he's your second. Um, it's probably he's just sitting lower. Basically, you should be fine." And I wish I would have pushed and, like, insisted that I come in because 2 weeks later, I ended up having emergency C-section. I had a placenta abruption, which can be fatal. Even for 35 weeks, he was underweight. He was only 3 pounds, 12 ounces. So, we're in the NICU. We're in the NICU for 6 weeks. He doesn't put on weight very easily. He's struggling to regulate his glucose, and so coming out of the NICU, we sort of knew he was gonna have delays. We knew that he was gonna be smaller. We knew that there could be just milestones missed or just late or whatever. So we kinda knew that it wasn't gonna be a typical experience.
I imagine you had some doctor resentment after all of this.
That didn't come until later, until the dust settled, because it was, like, one thing after the other, like, he's in the NICU, I'm going every day, then he comes home, then for a full year, we're just playing catch up, and then I have Emmett, and we're doing school stuff, and I'm just never really had time to really think about it, and I don't think that I really started resenting her until we started wanting a 3rd.
Okay.
And then, like, looking back and hearing other stories and even on this podcast too, I've heard, I wish I would have spoke up. I wish I would have advocated for myself, but there was other things happening at the time that what do you even do at that point? It's easy to say, I wish I would have done this, I could have done that, but, like, it is what it is, you know?
You had mentioned that when you were in the NICU and when you brought Des home that you knew things
Mhm.
were gonna be different.
Right.
Talk to us about that experience. What was Des like as a baby? Did he differ a lot, or was the experience different from Emmett? What do you remember about those early days?
So, Des as a baby, he sort of exceeded expectation. We thought it was gonna be this tremendous deficit, just because of how small he was and just what they tell you coming out of this, you just like, "What?
Mhm.
Okay." You kinda go worst case scenario, but that wasn't the case for us. He did meet milestones.
Uh-huh.
Emmett was sort of freakishly fast. Hitting milestones. He crawled at 5 months, he walked at 10 months, but I was never I'm never that mom that's like, "I have an advanced child," or because I never wanna make somebody feel like they're not doing enough because they're just gonna do what they're gonna do, and that's what I kept trying to tell Steve too. I was like, "Yeah, they're telling us this, but he's gonna do what he wants anyway." Gina's parents called him Tank because he was so little, but he was trying to do stuff
It
as
didn't
quick.
stop him.
It never stopped him, it never phased him. So I would say, for 10 months, up until 10 months, he just exceeded expectations and obviously wasn't average or whatever normal is, but he definitely did a lot better than we thought. He was babbly, he crawled. He was a little bit later to walk, but that's not unheard of either.
Ariel, I know similar since Zoe
Mhm.
was very,
Yeah.
very premature.
Yeah.
I know we were told similar things about the
Right.
developmental delays and what that was going to look like. And I know
Mhm.
it for us, we were just kind of automatically given all of these early intervention resources, and basically it felt like we were
Mhm.
auto enrolled in things for occupational therapy and eventually feeding, and was that also something that you experienced?
So the reason he was able to come home when he did was because we got our feedings. Our goal was to complete feeds, and he met that goal. So when we came home, we weren't doing any OT. We did OT in the hospital, but once we came home, he was just killing it, like doing what he was supposed to do. So we didn't feel like, and that pediatrician didn't
Yeah.
really feel like it was necessary at the time. That 10-month appointment, though, he was still not like, he was babbling, but nothing was happening. And then at 12 months, then he had no words. And then at 15 months, he still had no words. Then at 18 months, he still had no words. I mean, if you look at the criteria for autism, so backtrack, my oldest, when he was 3 and 4, I suspected that he had some behavioral whatever. Like autism wasn't as, I don't want to say mainstream, but like social media wasn't what it was then. He was born in 2014. So I mean, I was 25 at the time when I'm noticing these things, and like the information was very limited, but I just had a feeling. But based on my experience with Emmett, um again, mother intuition, it just felt like when I would Google 18-month-old 18-month milestones, and when I compared that to, like, autism symptoms, it was like he was checking off more of the autism symptoms than the milestones, if that makes sense. Like, up until 10 months, he was checking them off, but then 12 months, 15, 18, it just felt like it dipped and reversed. They do say that, like, for a lot of kids or for a lot of babies, their infancy usually is typical, but then they regress at like 15 months old. And we definitely saw that. We definitely saw like he wasn't babbling as much. He stopped making eye contact. He wasn't responding to his name. And I was talking to Steve last night, yeah, because I don't really remember a whole lot about it, but he was like, "Yeah, I just remember telling people, like, I think it's because he started walking at 14 months, and then at our 15-month appointment, that's when I was, like, connecting dots." And he was like, "I was just telling people that it was because he learned how to walk, and that was his focus, was walking, and so he wasn't responding to you, he was, like, hyper focused on," and he wasn't playing with toys typically or whatever. He started walking on his toes. It was like every single thing on the markers for autism.
It seems like you're super tuned in to all of the things that were changing in him.
Mhm,
Was there a moment as a mother
mhm.
where you were like, "Something's different here"? I mean, clearly it sounds like over time, but was there a significant moment that you remember in your gut that you felt like something could be different?
Emmett was a cuddler. Emmett wanted to be cuddled and rocked, and he didn't wanna be put down right away. Um, Des didn't want that. He wasn't very affectionate, and in the beginning, I don't think that I never took it personally, but I would be rocking him, and he would just be, like, pushing me away. At 5 months old, ready to go to bed, he just wanted to be left alone in his crib, don't touch him, I mean, he still does that. He wants Steve, that's it, but as an infant, looking back, that was top of the list, was he's not very affectionate.
Do you think you would have noticed if you didn't have Emmett as a bar?
Yeah, probably not. I'm also autistic, so through all of this, we all like, in solidarity, we 'cause I mean, when you're researching all of it, it's just like one thing after the other is telling you that it's genetic, and so, like, as the mom, you're like, Did I do this? Is it because of me?" And so, just for reassurance, like, I already had a suspicion about Emmett. There's nothing I can do about Steve. I'm not gonna force him to do anything, but I can control what I do, and so I got Emmett tested and I got myself tested, and so I'm autistic too, and I only say that because special interests. this became my special interest because it's my
Mhm.
kids. They're my kids. I want to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can for them.
When did you decide to test them? What was going on that you're like, "It's time?"
It was that 12-month appointment when he still wasn't talking, he was
Okay.
regressing, he still wasn't walking. It was just
And this was even
like
after your pediatrician said she didn't have concerns?
that wasn't when we brought him home. When we brought him home, like up until 10 months, we had no concerns.
Okay.
12-month appointment, she's like, "Well, he's still not talking. Let's give him till 15 months and then we'll start early intervention." Then at 18-month appointment, she's like, "Okay, let me refer you out to some specialists. Let's cuz there's always a wait list for everything." I think that like the access is there, but you're at 6 months to a year out from getting
Right.
a diagnosis for most people. That wasn't what happened with us, thank God. So he at his 18-month appointment, she referred us out. Like there's a lot of state stuff that you can do. There's early intervention that you can do with the state. We did that evaluation. They couldn't diagnose him with autism at 15 months. They kept telling us that we had to wait until he was 2, but I pushed. I
Good.
was like, I don't want to wait until he's 2.
Yeah.
And I was also pregnant at his 18-month appointment, or I gotten pregnant. I need answers before this next baby comes. Like, I need him I need to figure out what we're doing. When you're pregnant and you're just like, "What?" I need to know if I need finite I need a plan.
How long did it take for you to get his diagnosis from when he started testing?
They were telling us to wait until he was 2. She referred us out, but we did our own research and found our own doctor. We had gotten onto a Facebook group and kept seeing the same doctor name every
Mm.
post. So Steve was like, "I'm just gonna call. Let's just call." New Year's Eve, we just like call like, "Hey, we know there's probably gonna be a wait list. We just want to see when's your next appointment." They were like, "Oh, we have one in 2 weeks."
Wow. And he was how
S-
old?
He was 18 months.
Okay, so if at the
So
18-month appointment, your doctor's like, "Let's find some doctors for you," and you and Steve were like, "No, we don't have time to wait. We need to get answers now."
This is a lot. You are pregnant. You also went through testing and a diagnosis for Emmett. It sounds like you yourself went through testing and a diagnosis. Like,
yeah,
can you take us back? There is so much going on. There's so much that you're processing. You have a young child at home. Like, what is going through your mind? How are you taking all of this in?
thank you for acknowledging that it was a lot. But at the time, because I mean, I just went into mom mode, like you don't think of yourself in those moments where like I have one kid that might be, I have one kid that just got diagnosed. I'm having to educate everyone around me. I'm having to manage my husband's feelings. I'm having to manage our extended family's feelings about everything. I'm trying to look up the right information, the right verbiage. I had no time to feel things for myself
Yeah.
because it's coming for you at every direction. I knew that I was going to be okay. I knew that I was going to do right by them. I just needed the people or the adults around them to be on the same page with me. And anyone who knows me knows that I am pushy and that I am tenacious and when it comes to my kids, I'm not taking anybody's crap.
You're fierce. You're fiercely loyal to your kids and your family.
Yeah, when I say I would breathe fire for my kids, like Khaleesi,
Kale
Yeah.
Well,
Dracarys.
I think that's a trait to be proud of. Your kids would be, so honored to know that their mom fights for them so hard.
I'm raising special needs kids, but I'm also raising men too. They're also seemingly white men too, so I don't know like any other way to get my point across other than that's I have to nip things as they're happening. It's advocating. Like if I don't say it, no one else is going to say it. I have to.
That makes sense. And it's also probably I cannot put myself in your shoes, but if I can kind of take myself back to some of the situations I was in, advocating for myself or
Mhm.
Zoe or my second pregnancy, there's almost just like everything feels so out of control that being able to control and take action and feel like you're making progress forward
Mhm.
just somehow seemed to give me a little sense of stability in this, like,
Yeah, like
survival
something you
mode.
need
Yeah.
some center, like something needs to be the constant.
Yes.
It's just the
Yes.
calm. I mean, that's survival mode, that's mom mode,
Yes.
it's an instinctual thing, I think, for a lot of people. And even when it's not, you're probably doing it without even realizing you're doing it.
Yes. So it makes perfect sense, kind
Yeah.
of how you were processing through and,
Yeah.
how you were moving forward, and so now we are at the place you have an official diagnosis. If you don't
Yeah.
mind sharing exactly what his diagnosis was and what that means.
Yeah, so he's nonverbal level 2, and then Emmett is ADHD autistic level 1. So there's level 1, level 2, level 3, profound. There's probably names that I don't even know about. I'm only a year in this. I'm not going to get into what autism is and what autism is not, but all I can say is that it's not linear. It's not like ever you think of a spectrum and like one end and on the other end. It's just a myriad. If you think of the most complex Venn diagram, it's that. It's not a straight line. It's not this end and that end. There's so many different things that go into autism, and that's not even talking about people who are medically complex. That's not talking about people who have learning disabilities. That's not There's so many underlying things that don't get talked about, or that like people feel excluded in the conversation of autism, because even level 1, they refer to it as like an invisible an invisible disability, because they sometimes can do all of these things. They sometimes can do what they're supposed to do, but they still struggle like internally. You just don't know about it, but they're seemingly whatever normal is, you know? But level 2 nonverbal, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. The levels are like support needs. Everybody needs support. Everybody needs a little extra, but level 2 needs a little bit more. Level 3 is gonna need more than level 2, and then profound is a whole other ball game.
When you say he's nonverbal, do you have an idea, or does his doctors give you an idea with this diagnosis? Will he be verbal at some point? Will he not be? Is that something that you have an idea
There's no
of?
way to know. There's no way to know. We're just taking it day by day, step
Mhm.
by step. So I had my third in March. He started ABA therapy, applied behavioral analysis therapy, in April. And that was also something we didn't wait on either. Like, Steve was like showing up in that office like, "Is there a spot yet? Is there a spot yet?" There's a lot of opinions about ABA. Old school ABA is not well received, but we toured this facility and I've immediately felt good about it. I worked in daycares. You walk into a daycare and everybody's screaming and like wants to go home and nobody wants to be there, right? ABA, they're screaming, but it's happy screams. It's like
Aw.
they're excited to be there. The therapists are excited to be there. There's only 35 kids in the school. Des has a team of like 9 different therapists that he sees every day, or throughout the week. But in a year, he has come so far, and they collect data all day, every day. And so when we go into these meetings, these evaluation meetings, or we do a biweekly meeting with their head therapist, their BCBA, um, and that's where we can get on the same page. They communicate what therapies they're doing there, what we're doing at home, how we can integrate, and just all of those things.
You mentioned how far he's come in a year, and speaking for myself, we don't see each other obviously that often. We live in different states. And even when we did live in the same state, we were pretty far. Bring this up because I remember the last time that I was in Dallas, which was, I think, in the fall. Is that right? Yeah, before Christmas?
Yeah, it was before Thanksgiving.
Before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I went over to your house, and I remember being floored by Des in the
Yeah.
best way.
Yeah, what did you notice?
He was so engaging. He was so happy. Like,
Yeah,
my earlier experience with him was very much like he wanted to be alone and do his own
sure.
thing.
Yeah.
When I walked into your house, he was grabbing my hand, he was putting me where he wanted me to sit, he was
Yeah,
grabbing Grandma Nana and
yeah,
Grandpa's hands,
yeah.
he was dancing, he was
Oh my gosh.
laughing. I was like I
Yeah,
mean, it made me, like, teary-eyed. I'm like,
yeah.
"Wow, look at this happy boy."
He loves to
You
dance.
Well, and it's like, at the end
Yeah.
of the day, to me, a happy child is a sign of 2 parents who are doing the
Well,
best that they can.
no, I appreciate that. That's nice of you to say. But that's what keeps me and Steve going, because I I mean, I had him at home with me for 2 years, but I knew he needed I was like, am I hindering him by keeping him home selfishly?" And we were just like, "We're just gonna try it." The split second I get a whiff that he hates it, we're pulling him, and we don't ever have to go back to that evil place. Um,
Yeah,
but from the jump,
yeah.
I mean, he was bringing us his backpack. He was, like, bringing us his lunchbox at bedtime, like, he wanted to go back.
Oh,
Yeah, and he gets up in the morning ready to go, and he just loves everybody there, and when I tell you he's Mr. Cool, he rules that school. Literally, this morning, he walked into the director's office, sat in her chair, and was like, "Okay, you can go now." Like,
that's
he was the boss for the
hilarious.
day.
That's amazing. I know you've been talking about Steve and Steve showing up at the school and just showing up for you,
Mhm.
for your family, for your son. Can you just take us back to what that experience was like navigating it with Steve? What this whole experience has been like for both of you? I mean, I can imagine it
Yeah,
puts stress on your marriage. You're both in survival mode. What was it like navigating through all of this
yeah.
together as a team, and
Mhm.
how do you think it's kind of shaped your relationship?
Um, so So anybody who knows me and Steve knows that I'm very much like I grab him by the hand and say, "No, no, no. There's no time to panic. We're going. We got to go." I mean, Des was his first baby, and so for this to be his first experience, I didn't want it to be the sad, dramatic thing, and I didn't want it to be discouraging. I'm like, "No, no, it's okay. This isn't a death sentence. This is just an adjustment. We have to come at it at a different angle. We're still his parents. He's still our baby. It's not something that we have the time to mourn. We got to go." It was definitely hard. Um he more so than me had to grieve the idea of what the relationship with his first son was going to be. I don't want to speak for him, but I know that even now still has a hard time with it. I think looking at memories of Emmett at that age, looking at our nephews, it is hard to see kids of the same age communicate all their wants and needs, and being able to go out and do things without the fear of elopement or judgment. I mean, Steve is proud of him no matter what, but showing off your kid, like, this is my son, he didn't really get that experience. And I can see that, and I think that because I am so, like, in the mindset of I'm mama bear. Like I said, I'll breathe fire for my kids, and sometimes that includes Steve, unfortunately. I've left a relationship with a kid. Like, I can do it again, not that I want to. We're married, we're committed, and we're gonna get through with this, and we both have that mentality, but I did make it clear that you can come with us and we're going to do this what I think is the right way, or you can fight against it and stay in this mindset of what things should be. Like it doesn't matter what things should be. We have been dealt cards that don't look like everybody else's, and we just have to go with that.
And I want to say something that I don't, because if you obviously have not connected the dots, Steve is my brother, so I'm allowed to say this. Steve and the Simonellis are a bit rigid when it comes to expectations of what things should look like. So I could see a world in which, s- you know,
Where I have to be firm.
right, where Steve is like, wait, this isn't how it's supposed to be.
Right.
I thought it was gonna look different, and you coming in like, "Well, it's not
It's
that,
not.
so
It's not
we
that.
gotta just go
Yeah.
roll with it." And so,
Right.
yeah, I just wanted to say, like,
No,
you
I appreciate that.
particularly you particularly have
Right.
a partner that is a little, I think, just naturally a little more
Well,
hard
and
to bend.
I get the romanticizing of what you always dreamed of what having kids was gonna be like.
Mhm.
I grew up with a disabled mom. I grew up in a big family with other disabled people. And so I know that cookie cutter families don't always exist. And so I have a little bit more capacity, and I know that. But at the end of the day, I'm mom. I don't want them to look back and say she didn't do all that she could. I wish she would have said this to my dad. I wish my dad wasn't so this. I want them to know without a shadow of a doubt that I did everything within my power. It doesn't matter to me how I come across. None of that matters to me. They are all that matters to me. And when they come to me as an adult and tell me that I screwed them up in some other way, they can't say that I didn't do everything with the best of intentions. They can't say that but I'm also going to say, tell me more. What did I do? Like, I'm sorry that I did that to you, and let's work through it.
No, that's beautiful. I mean, and that makes a ton of sense, and I can also just wholeheartedly relate to grieving the vision or the expectations of what you thought things should have looked like or what you were
Yeah,
hoping.
I very much move through life with zero expectation. So I've built that muscle of being able to adjust and pivot, and not everything's going to happen the way you want to. No one's coming to save you. Life is what you make it, and you choose to live in a space where everything's dark and gloomy and sad, or you can choose to just move through it the best you can. Would I be lying if I don't have days where I am sad and I do grieve? Yeah, but I don't live there. I use the metaphor. I go through the drive-through.
Oh, I love that.
I go through the drive-through. I don't live there. Maybe I'll go and park and stay there for the day, but I don't live there. I go back home.
How did you know that you were ready for a third?
Yeah,
You had said that you were already pregnant, so you hadn't had Dez's diagnosis yet.
yeah.
How were you feeling mentally in your pregnancy? Was there anxiety? Are you more anxious about watching Max hit his milestones? Walk us through how having a third after all of
Yeah.
this has affected you.
So we had been talking about having a third. Steve always wanted a third. Um, we initially we wanted a big family. I guess going through all of this, I would do like temperature checks because I was ready right away. Like, I was like, I don't care what's going to happen. Whatever happens is going to happen anyway, whether we have another baby or not. Like, let's just do it. And he was like, well, let's just wait and see what happens. And I'm like, come on. He wanted ducks in a row.
Sure.
He wanted a sense of like everything was going to be okay. He didn't want to get a sense of like things could be worse and then have to welcome another baby in. So we agreed to get pregnant in February. I got pregnant in August, and that was his fault.
Prior, like the August prior to February.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, okay, cool. Like, this is our timeline. We'll start trying in January, be pregnant by February, March, whatever. And then like next year, and Des will be like, we'll have all these things. He was just like, actually, why wait? He talks out of both sides of his mouth. He's famous for that. I think the biggest feeling for me was just my only symptom being pregnant with Max was extreme exhaustion. Like, extreme, you know, that first trimester where you're just falling asleep standing up and sitting
Yes.
up, and like all you want to, that was from the time I got pregnant to the time I delivered.
Oh my
And
God.
so, and I had Des home with me, and so I just felt a tremendous amount of guilt for him, that especially like at the time we were doing early intervention. So twice a week we had a therapist come and work with him, and then we added speech therapy. So ECI was twice a week every week, and then speech was twice a month. Um, but I just felt like I couldn't do anything. It was also a high risk pregnancy, which nobody knows. Gina's the only one that knows, and Steve. I didn't tell anybody, but that it was a high risk pregnancy, so I literally couldn't do anything. I had a
Yeah.
velamentous cord insertion, so
Oh
I
my
don't.
gosh.
Yeah, Google that. uh,
Well, and
uh,
you did deliver him a little bit early. Was it 37?
Yeah, I had a planned C-section for 39 weeks, and he came at 37. So my kids do what they want. They walk all over me. They do whatever they want to.
What do you love about Des? What makes him so special?
Steve and I were talking about this yesterday. He's just always happy. He's always happy. He's so playful. He's silly. Steve calls him our gentle giant because he's
Aw.
so like he's so much bigger than Emmett was at 4. And his dad is pretty tall. And I think Des already looks like John and Steve. They're like carbon copies of each other. They really are. But I think he's gonna be tall like him too. But we call him our gentle giant because he is so sweet to Max. Every
Oh.
once in a while, he'll just like 300 kick him off the couch. But what brother doesn't do that? I think there's a misconception that autistic people lack empathy. But in my experience, it's quite opposite. In the same way that a blind person has their other senses are heightened, like their hearing might be heightened, or the fluctuations of tone and stuff, they pick up on all of that. I think because he can't speak and because he can't communicate everything that he feels, he is gauging the room around him. He's always feeling everything around him, and everyone that knows him, every therapist that he comes across, they're just like, we love him so much, and that gives me so much joy because I'm not the preferred parent. Steve is the preferred parent, and not being the preferred parent is incredibly hard as a mom. Um, but we have little moments. We have little moments where, because that's like one of the hardest thing, like when we talk about grief, like I guess the only thing that I worry about or struggle to kind of, or that I grapple with on a regular basis is, will he ever really know how much I love him? Because like, I'm not his preferred parent. He doesn't want me. He wants Steve. And there's no way for me to know. Like, if he hears me when I say it, there's no way for me to know. A lot of people will say whoever's the last child is like the glue of the family. Des is our glue. It's no secret that me and Steve, we bicker a lot. It's our love language.
Don't we all?
We we have colorful conversations in front of the kids. Um, I just find it very important to model and teach conflict resolutions. I'm raising somebody's husband, I'm raising somebody's coworker. So I think that it is important for them to see us not only fail at it, but when we do succeed at it. All that to say, does this funny thing whenever me and Steve get loud. He will come grab me by the hand. He'll come grab Steve by the hand, walk us to the kitchen. He'll have me set him on the counter, and then he makes us hug.
Oh,
He makes us kiss and hug each other. And Steve has said, I don't feel like it right now. And I'm like, too bad.
that is the most pure thing I've ever heard in my life.
Right? Like that. So tell me they don't have empathy. He
Right.
knows we need to hug it out in that moment. And he knows that we're going to work it out. And we tell him too. Like, I don't want him to ever feel like we're talking at him or around him about him. So we include him in conversations, whether or not he responds, like, we're still telling him.
Sure, and I mean, it's very evident that Des understands everything you say to
Oh,
him.
for sure. Yeah. It's not perfect all the time, but he hears, he understands. And I just think that it's important that I communicate with him the same way that I would communicate with a typical 3-year-old or 4-year-old. We talk about it in a way that is digestible for them, but the message is still the same, whether it's in great detail or, bite sizes. It's all the same.
I love that the empathy piece, and I think that's
Mhm.
so special. I'm assuming
Yeah.
too, like, it sounds like, again, with conflict resolution and him try to get you and Steve to kinda hug it out and
Yeah.
work through it. I'm sure there's other things that he's taught you or opened up kind of the
Oh,
world
for
to.
sure.
Do you
Yeah.
have any examples?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is life is fast. Life comes at you fast. You get busy. Us as adults in our society, we're just like on to the next thing. He slows us down in a very, very big way, just because he's not in any hurry. He's hyper focused on something, but when you slow down and get on his level and see what he's really looking at, I needed to slow down. Like, okay, buddy, I see you. This is cool. This grass is cool. These flowers are cool. The other night, Steve went out for a drink with the neighbors, and he gets super pumped whenever I do bedtime. And
Steve does or Des?
Des.
Oh, okay.
Well, both, like, they both do because Steve does bedtime. Steve took over bedtime with Des at, like, I don't know, 8 months,
Mhm.
because I felt like it was important that they connect at bedtime. Bedtime is such a connecting moment for them.
Mhm.
It backfired because he loves Steve more than me now, and I think that's what did it, was bedtime. So the other night, he's out Steve's out drinking with friends, and I am with the kids. I put Max down. Des loves our backyard. We have a play set out there. It's like this little clubhouse or whatever. So anyway, long story short, bedtime's at 7:30. We were out there until like 10 because he dragged me into the playhouse. Like, I'm 4'11", I can fit, it's fine. I was sitting there with him, and the playhouse faces our house, and the lights were up, and I could see into our house. I could see all their toys, and I could just see our whole entire house. It was quiet, it was calm, we had a great time, just me and him, and I was just like, "This is everything that I prayed for. This is everything that I wanted. This is just." That's what I mean by he slows me down.
Oh,
I
that's
love that.
beautiful. And
Yeah,
if there's one thing that I love so much about you as a mom
yeah.
is you send me pictures or videos and it's Des covered in mud, rolling around the backyard.
Yeah,
You let him be a kid.
sensory output.
Yep, you let
Mhm.
him live, you let him explore the way he needs to explore. And I just really admire that about you.
Thank you.
If there's one piece of advice you'd have for someone else who's maybe going through a diagnosis or just recently received a diagnosis, what's one thing you wish you could tell them?
You're different, not less. Let's take me for example. Meeting me, do you think that I seem autistic? Probably not. I'm very well spoken, bada bada ba, but it's all internalized. This is the first time I've said I'm autistic to anybody who isn't my kids or my husband, let alone on a freaking podcast, because for fear that I will be made feel whether intentionally or unintentionally. In Friends, when Richard's talking about his divorce and at that party, and they're like, "Oh, sorry about that." It's almost like that, where it's like, as soon as you hear that I'm autistic, you treat me differently. And you're just different. You're not, it doesn't make you any less of a person if you're just coming to terms with a diagnosis, if you're just learning about it, if your kid is, it's so complicated, and socially it's just not well received. But there are people out there who understand you and who will see you, and those are the people that you should surround yourself with. It's easier said than done. I know that, but I think people who are not in the community have a lot of work that they can do. I do want to preface with a saying in the community: if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person, because it is so vastly different for everybody. But my advice to those getting diagnosed, it's okay. You're going to find your way. And those who just know somebody, like, it goes a long way to read a book. It goes a long way to read up on things. It goes a long way to not be weird about it. Like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't know how to act." Well, just be normal, but also make room. There is a quote that I want to share with you all. Okay. So it's for those who don't have autism, and for like, we feel when you're being weird to us, we feel like when we're not being accepted, we feel it in a very, very, very deep way when people start looking at you differently. So Caitlin Partlow, she is from the first season of Love on the Spectrum. There's a quote that I love that I heard yesterday, and she said, "Your autism acceptance doesn't count if it goes away when an autistic person does an autistic thing." So that can look like stemming, vocal stems, meltdowns, hyper-focused, special interests, info dumping. Make space for them. You can wear the shirt, you can say that you accept them, you can say that you're all of these things, but if in that moment you fail them, you don't have acceptance.
I love that. That's so important. And one, I just want to say thank you for being so vulnerable and willing to
Yeah.
share your lived experience. I think this is such an important conversation. And please send me books and resources. I want to further and better
Yeah.
educate myself, because again, on this podcast, we talk about sitting in that discomfort. And I can imagine that for a lot of people, their discomfort or just unfamiliarity can come off in such a
It's always well
reactionary
intended.
way.
It's
Yes.
never out of malice, and I get that, but it's
No, but you're
noticeable.
right.
It's
And
noticeable.
we can do better. And so
Yeah. When you
let's
know
all
better, you
try.
do better.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys.
I know we're just scratching the surface, but I know our listeners were at least able to take a lot of education away from this conversation, maybe learn some things that they didn't know or clear up some misconceptions that they had. So we're grateful for you. We're grateful for your time, and we are grateful
Anytime. Yeah.
for Des.
I love him.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you
Love
next
you
time.
guys. Bye.
And that concludes your free therapy session, brought to you by two people with lots of opinions and zero certifications. Don't forget to bill your insurance, emotionally or otherwise. And be sure to follow us on Instagram at GraceWhoPod. That's Grace, WHO Pod.
Tune in next time for another deep dive into something we'll probably overthink and under-resolve. And while our search for grace continues, let's at least try to find a little joy in between.